Good morning and welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And it might not be morning for you, but it's morning for me because yesterday's episode was a perfect example of why I need to record in the morning. So I hope I'm not setting myself up for losing my train of thought again. Anyway, welcome back. And today I wanted to talk about a couple things, but mostly focus on anxiety. And that is because anxiety has been a debilitating part of my life. It is convincing myself that my fears are true. I want to talk about what it was like when I was I think the noticeable anxiety started when I was in college. Coincidentally, that is when my drinking really took off. I don't remember, I remember being nervous in high school and prior, but it wasn't something that I felt like was unusual, like that maybe I was different than other people, that I got too anxious or something. But in college, I remember it becoming a problem. And when it was noticeable was definitely in public speaking. When I needed to present in front of a class, it was very difficult. Mostly in my public speaking class that I took. I actually took the public speaking class because I started to feel anxiety when I was public speaking. I got involved in the Panhellenic Council, which is the governing body of the Greek system. I went to Longwood. Then it was Longwood College. Now it's Longwood University in Farmville, Virginia. That's where I went. And I was a member of Zeta Tau Alpha, which is a women's fraternity. And I never heard of one. And I've never heard of one since then, but it was a female fraternity. So I guess I haven't really looked into it. So maybe there's millions of them. I have no idea. Anyway, I started to get to public speak in meetings that we would have. And I just felt, I could feel like my voice would shake. And once I started feeling that, and you could hear it, and I could tell it was noticeable, then the other symptoms would start showing physically. So I would start shaking to the point that my face would shake. And it was so embarrassing. It was so embarrassing. So I started taking this public speaking class in college. And that, I think that it was, I need to be grateful for my experiences in life, even though all my memories of that public speaking class I could almost feel the anxiety thinking about what it felt like for me back then to stand up in front of people and talk. I was just so scared. And, I would talk to my mom about it, and not that she was a professional public speaker, but we would talk to each other about, what we've heard in research, like try to relax your shoulders and that'll I don't know, should bring down the anxiety a bit. Over It never worked. It never worked. And then I ended up getting in a reorg for work. I ended up being assigned as a trainer. And I thought, number one, how flattering that they felt that I had the people skills and the knowledge to become a trainer. Like, I think my first instinct that I was flattered my second one was, oh my God, what am I going to do? Um, and well, you do what you have to do. And I remember going up in front of these classes, and the same thing would happen. And this is 15 years later, probably, that the same thing would happen. My voice would shake, my hands would start trembling, my knees would start shaking, and then my face would start shaking. And it was embarrassing because at this point, I was an internal trainer, so I was training my peers. And so these peers that I wanted to always look at me like a professional and somebody who, like, I don't know, I wanted to be somebody to look up to because I wanted to have that image back then. And my physical symptoms of anxiety were getting in the way of that. And that just made everything worse. Um, so that was really the public speaking side of it. But I remember things like waiting for homecoming. I remember this boy that I really liked in high school. I think I was a freshman. I'm not sure. I might have been a sophomore. And the boy that I liked asked me to go to homecoming. And I was like so excited. I was so excited. I don't know. That might have been the only time in my life that the person I asked me to go to a dance. And I was just so crazy nervous. I I remember waiting in my dress. So I had like a strapless dress. It was god awful looking because we're talking about the early 90s, late 80s. I think it was like 1989, actually, because I would have been in ninth grade in 1989. And so the dress was god awful, but I thought I was super pretty. And as I was waiting, I just got a rash all over my chest, my arms. My face was like 300 degrees. So by the time that he picked me up, I just had a rash all over my body just from simply waiting, anticipating, and convincing, I think that convincing myself that my fears are true. And so we ended up going, and his parents were driving us. So I think that was kind of another layer to it. Um, so that experience for me of waiting and breaking out in this terrible rash became the norm. When I was waiting for something, I would start breaking out in a rash to the point where I started needing to always make sure that I had a shirt that was all the way up to my neck if there was something that I was going to have to be waiting for. Um, Another anxiety that I think I still deal with today, but I very much have dealt with it my whole life, is over analyzing other people's interactions with me and reading into what they must be thinking. And that is an extremely unhealthy way of dealing with relationships, I think. I still do it today. I will still look at my husband and think, I wonder if he mad at me for some reason? Like, why would he be mad at me? I didn't do anything. But I don't know because I think I was very aware that in my life I was not completely self-aware of if I said or did something that might have made somebody mad. I don't know why that is. My mom, I know if you're listening, hi mom, knows that like I was always afraid that she was mad at me. And if my mom was upset with me for something, like I was fearful like something like she was going to freaking beat me or something. My mom never laid a hand on me, but I was so scared because I was just convincing myself that my fears are true. Whatever I could imagine in my head, I would convince myself that it was going to happen. And I think that one of the problems is that I must have not trusted in my relationship with the other person. Um, why not trust my mother that things are going to be fine? You know, yeah, she's mad at me for some reason, not mad at me, but upset with something that I had done or something as a child, something stupid. And I had this like blown out of proportion fear, and I still have it. I still have it today. But what I'm learning in my sobriety program is that when I'm over analyzing and I'm blowing things out of proportion and I'm sitting in fear and convincing myself that it's true, I am not fixing anything. I'm not solving any problems. I am simply building energy within myself. It's like I'm charging my own battery. You know, those rechargeable batteries. When I start sitting in my fear, it is like I plugged in my battery and it's charging. And that energy that I'm creating within my body has to come out. And the way that it comes out for me, if it's not addressed immediately or sooner rather than later, it will come out as um, physical symptoms. And it will be shaking. It will be, you know, my voice shaking, my face shaking. It's that energy that needs to come out. And what I couldn't do when I was drinking was my medication was not working. So there was nothing I could do to settle it. It was really out of my control. Um, I went to therapists. I did what I felt like was everything. The one thing I wasn't willing to do was stop drinking. And that was because the drinking was the only self-medication that really was working in my life. And the more I drank, the less anxiety I would feel. And it became my solution. And it worked. It worked for a really, really long time until it didn't work anymore. Um, I talked yesterday about staying up late so that tomorrow wouldn't come. That was one of the things that I would do in order to avoid my anxiety. And so I would drink until 2 or 3 in the morning. And when I would wake up in the morning, I was not only just as nervous, maybe even more so. I also would start feeling withdrawal symptoms, and withdrawal symptoms feel very much like anxiety. Um, I don't know if you've experienced this before, but I know that my children experience this, even if sometimes they won't admit to it. When we don't get enough sleep, when we don't eat enough, when we're mistreating our body, we're not getting the right nutrients, the right sleep, and it looks like anxiety. That's what happens for me. That's what I've noticed happens with my kids too. And so sometimes I just need to have a conversation with them and say, you know, if they're coming to me and asking me about something that they're really troubled about, one of my first responses will be, did you get enough sleep last night? Like, what's your sleep pattern been like for about the past 4 days? Because it never fails. It never fails that that anxiety is being triggered even more because their body isn't being taken care of. We just don't prioritize the health of our bodies. It's really fascinating to me. And I'm not here trying to say that I'm perfect at it by no means. I'm talking about it from a peer perspective. Like I don't know why I do it. I don't know why before I go to bed at night, like I'm chowing down on Twixes and Hershey bars and uh, Jolly Ranchers, an ice cream cone. Um, it's like I'm trying to get a sugar high. And the only reason that I'm doing it to this extent right now is because we have this tradition that I'm not totally a fan of, but yet I am a fan, where as soon as the Halloween candy goes up for sale in the supermarket, my husband buys a bag every time he goes to the grocery store. So, um, in the past, it was like these bags just pile up and pile up. Well, it's become a tradition now for me that I try, not purposely, but try to get rid of the bag before the next bag comes, you know? And so I'm just intaking so much sugar, and that is mirroring my problems with alcohol. And after Halloween, I will end up having to wean myself off of sugar again. I did it for a couple days, but if I have one, I swear it's just like alcohol. If I have one, I have to have five, Twixes. I'll have a left Twix. And then, well, if I had a left Twix, I have to have a right Twix. And then I'm like, I'm not done. Those were small. I'm going to have another left Twix. Well, I just had a left Twix. I'm going to have a right one. Well, I'll just polish this off with a Reese's cup. Um, that's what happens. And so back to anxiety, that kind of mistreatment of my body makes me feel off. And if I don't, right now, I'm very self-aware of like my anxiety symptoms, my headache symptoms, my dizziness symptoms. I'm very self-aware. So when I feel extraordinarily bad in the morning, I look backwards at yesterday. What did I do yesterday? Well, I do know that I got a new phone. I got the new iPhone 16 Pro. So I have been wanting to experience what it's like to have a bigger screen. Well, you guys know as soon as I start talking about a digital screen, there's problems. So I've been having a lot of head symptoms lately, and intaking more candy is not helping. So all of this can result in me not being entirely excited about facing the day. Um, Part of my anxiety, I was thinking about this morning, my anxiety makes me feel like it's paralyzing. Um, it makes me want to stop. It makes me feel like I need the world to stop. It's like everybody just stop moving. Everything, time just needs to stop because I can't handle it. And a lot of times I can't even pinpoint exactly what I'm anxious about. And I know that you've been there. If you are in recovery, most likely you've been there where you have these these, it's almost like a sixth sense is what it feels like. But for me, that sixth sense is wrong. That sixth sense is something that I created in my own mind. And it becomes so overwhelming that I just want to, back in the day when I was drinking, I want to put the covers over my head and stop time. I can't face the day. Um, and then in stroke recovery today, after not going into my career anymore, that that feeling of stopping time makes me not do anything, not show up for myself. I may get out of bed, take my dogs out, do go to my meetings, but I won't share in my meetings. It starts crippling me. And over time, if I allow it, if I keep shutting myself down, that is risking my sobriety. That is the signs of me starting to isolate. So when I want the world to stop because of my anxiety. Really, all I'm doing is I'm stopping myself, but the world is continuing to move, and that feeds anxiety for me. Um, I have learned, and I don't like to use past tense because I'm always learning that my anxiety, my fear, my pain, my anxiety that I deal with on a daily basis, really, is now a trigger to take action. It tells me there's something that needs to be resolved within me. Um, it's not a time to stop. It's a time to step, actually. Um, I know from sobriety and working the program that I deserve it. I deserve to walk through my days feeling serenity, feeling joyful. And it takes work on a daily basis for me to do that. It takes, in my second meeting this morning, we were talking about perseverance and not giving up no matter what. And that that requires not only perseverance, and not only perseverance, but consistency. And that perseverance comes because of that trigger for me. And it has come from um, experience. So in the beginning of my sobriety, and this applies to the beginning of stroke recovery too, I didn't want to face it. We were talking about this morning, fear is the acronym for face everything and recover. Or it can also be the acronym of uh, oh, now I can't remember what it was. Uh, everything is all right. Everything is all right. Everything is all right. I don't know. Anyway, the now I've lost my train of thought. Darn it. I almost got through the whole episode. So in the beginning, there it is. I had to do the opposite of what my instincts were telling me. I talked about instincts last week, and I needed to just do the opposite. And it was through gaining experience, through doing the opposite of what my fear, pain, and anxiety were telling me to do, that I started to gain experience knowing if I feel fear, pain, and anxiety and I act, this is what happens. It my problems resolve faster. I don't have to feel those feelings for as long if I act on them. And I don't mean, act in a negative way. I'm pausing still. I'm pausing and thinking, I'm thoughtful about what action I'm going to take. But I need to let those things be triggers. I have been able to start correlating fear, pain, and anxiety to action. Kind of like I talk about these other feelings where I'm partnering up. When I feel fear, this is what I need to do. When I feel jealousy, this is what I need to do. And it's all that stuff in my toolbox that is starting to have labels on them. I've got my label maker. And as I experience something, some sort of emotion, and I pause thoughtfully, and then I take action, whatever the outcome is, that's going, I'm putting a label on it and I'm filing it away to in my toolbox, in my sobriety, in my recovery toolbox, because all of this is not just applying to my sobriety. It very much applies to my stroke recovery. And I'm grateful that I had the willingness to do the opposite in the beginning, to do the opposite of what my instinct was telling me, so that I could experience what happens if I do the opposite. What happens if I take the covers off from over my head and I face whatever it is? That willingness was the hard part. And today, yeah, fear, anxiety, and pain still feel the same. They don't feel less troublesome. It's just that I I do something about it so that I don't feel them for as long. And that is where the magic is for me. That's where I can get back to my serenity sooner if I use those feelings as triggers to act rather than reasons to hide. Yeah. So that's what I have for you today. Thanks for listening. And I'm so grateful that you're here. I will see you tomorrow.